The space station Aurora 19 floated far above a blue-green planet, shining like a small silver star. Inside it, hundreds of humans worked every day to keep the old station alive. Some repaired machines, some studied the stars, and some, like Elias Trent, worked quietly where few noticed. He was a human engineer, tall and thin, with dark hair and tired eyes. He had been on Aurora 19 for 3 long years. Every day was the same: fix, test, repair, repeat. He hardly spoke to anyone, and most of the crew just nodded to him in passing. Elias liked it that way. He didn't need fame or friends. He only needed tools, time, and a quiet corner to do his work. The station's engines hummed softly like an old song, and to him, that sound was peace. But peace never lasted long in space. One day, Commander Rhea called Elias to the main deck. Her tone was calm but serious. "Trent," she said, "we're joining a cooperation program with the Volari Empire. Their people are sending specialists to assist us in upgrading our energy systems. You'll be working with one of them." Elias blinked. "An alien? On Aurora 19? "Yes," Rhea said. "And before you ask, they're friendly. The Volari use organic technology, and they can sense power flows better than any human sensor. You'll learn from each other." Elias nodded slowly. He didn't argue, though inside he felt uneasy. He had read about the Volari, a race of fox-like beings covered in fur, graceful, with bright eyes and sharper minds. Some humans called them space foxes. He wasn't sure if he could work with someone who looked so different. That evening, when the Volari shuttle docked, the crew gathered in the docking bay. A gentle hiss filled the air as the doors opened. 3 alien figures stepped out, their fur shining in the artificial light, tails swaying lightly behind them. 2 of them were tall, wearing silver suits with glowing marks. The third was smaller, maybe Ilias's height, with orange fur, silver eyes, and ears that twitched at every sound. Commander Rhea smiled and gestured. "This is Lyra, your assigned partner." Lyra tilted her head and smiled, or at least her expression looked like a smile. Her voice was soft, but carried strange rhythm. "You are Elias Trent, human engineer?" Elias nodded. "That's right. You can call me Elias." "Elias," she repeated slowly, tasting the word. "It sounds like current through wire, smooth." He didn't quite know what to say, so he only smiled politely. Their first task began the next morning. The Volari team was helping to repair the main plasma reactors, old machines that powered the station's shields. Lyra's people had new energy filters that could triple efficiency, but integrating them wasn't easy. Elias stood on a narrow platform inside the reactor chamber, tools in hand, while Lyra crouched beside him, watching the flow of energy through her small wrist device. Her tail moved side to side, matching the rhythm of the reactor pulses. "You humans use so much metal," she said curiously. "Our kind grows power plants with living matter. Easier to heal, but it'll last longer," Elias said. "If you treat it right," she looked at him. "Do you treat yourself right, human?" The question caught him off guard. "What?" "You are tired," she said simply. Your voice vibrates slow. Your eyes burn. He laughed quietly. "We all get tired out here. But you do not rest," she said, ears twitching. "You fix things until your body stops." He didn't answer that. Instead, he reached deeper into the reactor panel and started adjusting the coolant pipe. They worked for 16 hours straight. When the power finally stabilized, the lights in the control room brightened. The crew cheered. Elias leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from his forehead. Lyra tilted her head again, her tail flicking. "Human, you're tired?" she asked innocently. "But we're only on number 6. He blinked. "Number 6 of what?" "The list," she said seriously. "I made 12 improvement goals for this station. We have completed 5. Number 6 is next." Elias laughed for real this time. "You made a list. You're worse than our commander." Lyra's ears perked up. "Worse is bad?" "In this case," he said, smiling faintly, "it's impressive." Over the next few days, Lyra became the most talked about being on Aurora 19. She was everywhere, helping mechanics fix engines, joining the cooks in the mess hall, Even learning human jokes, though, she often laughed in the wrong places. Her endless curiosity filled the silent station with life. Elias tried to keep up. Every time he thought the day was over, Lyra would call, "Human, we must continue." She didn't understand rest. Her species only slept 2 hours every 40 cycles. To her, exhaustion was a strange weakness. But what frustrated Elias the most was her kindness. When he dropped a tool, she picked it up with her soft clawed hand. When he skipped meals, she brought nutrient packs. When he stayed too long at the control desk, she turned off his screen. "You stop now," she said firmly. System overheating? He couldn't tell if she was teasing or serious. Maybe both. One night, while fixing a conduit near the observation dome, the lights flickered. Lyra stood beside him, looking out at the stars. The soft glow of distant suns reflected in her silver eyes. "Your stars," she said quietly. "They are beautiful. Our sky is red and full of dust." "I did not know light could be so cold." Elias looked at her, surprised by the softness in her tone. "You talk like a poet." "I do not know that word," she said. "It means someone who feels deeply and says it beautifully." Lyra thought for a moment. "Then maybe I am a poet," she said, "because I feel much when I look at this." Elias smiled. "You're something, all right." They stayed silent for a while, just watching the stars move. As the days turned into weeks, their teamwork became smooth. She moved like light, quick and graceful. He moved slow, but steady, careful with every bolt. They balanced each other. Then one morning, a small power surge hit the reactor grid. The readings jumped wildly, alarms buzzing. Elias ran toward the chamber, shouting orders. Lyra followed close behind. "It's the main array," he said. "The energy cells are misaligned again." She climbed onto the console, scanning the flow with her glowing wristband. "I see the pulse error. Too many vibrations. The wave is angry." "Angry?" he asked. "In our language, we say the energy spirit bites back when it is mishandled." "Let's calm it down," he said. They worked in perfect sync. Elias rerouting circuits, Lyra stabilizing power fields. Sparks flew, but she didn't flinch. Her tail brushed against the ground, sending small static arcs across the floor. Finally, after an hour of struggle, the system stabilized. The reactor hummed softly again. The emergency lights faded. Elias leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His hands shook. Lyra turned to him, her fur glowing faintly in the heat. "Human, you did it," she said happily. He smiled weakly. "We did it." She tilted her head. "No, you. You took pain and turned it into balance. That is rare." He shook his head. "It's just work. Anyone could do it." She looked at him for a long moment. Then why did no one else? He didn't have an answer. Later in the mess hall, Lyra sat beside him. She held a steaming cup of synthesized tea, sniffing it curiously. "You drink this brown water every day?" "It keeps us awake," he said. She nodded seriously. "Maybe I will learn your ways. Maybe I will drink brown water too." She took a sip, made a face, and almost dropped the cup. "This is terrible." Elias laughed until he couldn't stop. For once, the noise of his laughter echoed through the metal walls like music. After that day, Lyra started keeping a small notebook, something she'd borrowed from the human archives. On its first page, she wrote, "Lessons from Human Elias 2-1. Rest is earned. 2. Laughter fixes things faster than tools." Elias didn't know she kept that notebook, but he noticed small changes. She started giving him short breaks between tasks. When he fell asleep at his desk, she let him rest. When he woke up, she was usually sitting quietly nearby, tail curled around her, humming in her native tune. One night, the station lights dimmed for scheduled power conservation. Only the stars lit the corridor windows. Lyra and Elias walked side by side. "Why do humans live so fast?" she asked. "Your lives burn bright and short. You could slow down." He thought for a moment. "Maybe because we never know when we'll stop burning." She nodded slowly. "That is sad." "Not really," he said softly. "It makes every day matter." For a moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she touched his arm gently. Then I will help you make them matter. Their friendship grew from there, strange, quiet, and full of small moments. Lyra would tease him every time he yawned, saying, "Human, you're tired again," and he would reply, "Because some alien fox keeps me working." By the time they finished upgrading the main reactors, the station's power output had doubled. Commander Rhea praised their success before the entire crew. "Thanks to Elias and Lyra, Oroniteen has energy to last 10 more years." The hall filled with applause. Lyra looked confused. "Why do they cheer for you?" she asked Elias. He smiled. "Because they think I did something good. But we both did it." He shrugged. "Sometimes people forget to see the full team." She frowned slightly, then said, "Then I will remind them." She raised her hand and shouted, "Lyra and Elias, fix the power." The crew laughed and clapped louder. Elias turned red, but he couldn't stop smiling. That night, after the celebration, Lyra found him sitting near the observation dome again. The stars glowed brighter than ever, reflected in the glass. "You miss home?" she asked quietly. Elias thought for a moment. "Maybe, but Earth is far, and I'm not sure I'd fit there anymore." Lyra looked at him carefully. "You fit here." "With me?" He turned to her. "You think—" The next morning came early on the Aurora 19 space station. Lights flickered to bright white engines hummed in rhythm, and the quiet hallways echoed with movement. Humans hurried to their posts. While a certain orange-furred alien stood by the reactor control room door, tail swishing eagerly. "Elias," Lyra called, her silver eyes sparkling. "It is time. Number 6 begins today." Elias walked in, carrying his toolkit and a mug of brown tea. He looked half awake, his hair messy and eyes tired. "You're too happy for someone who doesn't drink coffee," he said, yawning. Lyra tilted her head. "Coffee makes humans smile, yes? Then maybe you should drink more," he chuckled softly. "If I drink more, I might start bouncing off walls like you," she smiled proudly. "Then you will finally learn efficiency." Their target that day was the thermal grid alignment, one of the most difficult upgrades left on the list. The station's heating network stretched through hundreds of tunnels, keeping humans alive against the cold vacuum of space. Some sections hadn't been touched in years. Commander Rhea had warned them to be careful. As they checked the blueprints, Lyra traced her claws across the screen. "This grid is very old," she said. "Its energy waves fight against each other." "That's why it keeps overloading," Elias replied. "We'll have to stabilize it manually." Lyra's tail flicked with excitement. "Good. Manual means we go inside." Elias sighed. "Of course you'd like that." Hours later, they crawled through narrow tunnels filled with humming pipes. The air was warm and smelled faintly of ozone. Tiny lights blinked along the walls. Elias wiped sweat from his forehead, muttering, "You sure this is safe?" "Mostly," Lyra said cheerfully. "Mostly." I said mostly. 93% chance we live." He laughed under his breath. "You're terrible at comfort." They worked side by side, adjusting wires, welding panels, and calibrating heat regulators. Lyra moved fast, her small hands dancing across the glowing circuits. She hummed softly in her language, a tune that reminded Elias of wind over snow. After hours of crawling, fixing, and testing, they reached the main control core of the thermal grid. A wide circular room opened before them, filled with red lights and deep metallic hum. Lyra scanned the readings. "Energy is stable at 70%, she said. "We can push more." Elias hesitated. "We should wait for clearance from the command deck." Lyra looked at him curiously. "You humans always wait. If we always wait, we never learn. Sometimes waiting keeps you alive. Sometimes not acting kills progress." Elias sighed. "You win." She grinned. "I always do." They increased the power slowly. The grid hummed louder, lights pulsing brighter. For a while everything seemed fine until a sudden jolt shook the floor. "What was that?" Elias asked, gripping a handle. Lyra looked at her scanner. "Strange. External magnetic wave." Before they could react, the comm system crackled to life. Commander Rhea's voice came through, urgent. All crew, brace for impact. Solar flare detected from Sector 9. Shield generators offline. Repeat. Offline. Elias's stomach dropped. A solar flare? Here. Lyra's eyes widened. That is not good. The room filled with alarms as red warning lights flashed. The station trembled under the invisible storm. Energy readings spiked across every monitor, Lyra. We have to shut this grid down before it overheats. Elias shouted. I'm trying, she replied, claws flying across the control pad. It's fighting back. The pulse is angry again. Sparks burst from the panel. Elias shielded his face as heat washed over them. The grid cables began to glow orange. If they didn't stabilize the system, the whole thermal network could explode. Taking half the station with it, he grabbed a manual override lever. I'll vent the backup conduits. Buy us a few minutes. Lyra turned to him, alarmed. You cannot do that alone. The radiation level, someone has to. He pulled the lever with all his strength. The lights flickered, the hum dropped slightly, and the reading steadied for a moment. But the damage was spreading. Energy waves rippled through the grid like fire through dry grass. Lyra's scanner beeped rapidly. It's reaching the outer hull. Humans in the habitat ring are losing air. Elias's heart raced. Then we don't have time. We have to reach the control core. It is 10 sections away. Lyra shouted. Then let's run. They sprinted down the glowing corridors. The floor vibrated beneath them. Alarms howled. Through small view windows, Elias saw the star outside, flashing bright white tangri. Alive and deadly. Lyra's claws clicked against the metal as she ran beside him, her fur catching the red light. Even in chaos, she moved gracefully, never stumbling. Elias stumbled twice, catching himself on walls. When they reached the control chamber, heat hit them like a wall. Steam hissed from broken pipes, and sparks rained from the ceiling. The main reactor core pulsed wildly, its blue glow flickering into deep red. Lyra pressed her paws on the console. I can stabilize it if you reroute the secondary channel. Elias climbed to the side platform, manually forcing open the conduit valves. The metal burned his gloves, but he kept turning until his arms screamed. Status, he yelled. Lyra's voice was calm, though her tail whipped like lightning. Good. You are balancing the flow. Keep steady. Suddenly the ceiling cracked, and a burst of energy threw Elias's backward. He hit the wall hard, falling to one knee. His vision blurred, but he saw Lyra rushing toward him, eyes wide with fear. Elias. She shouted, Get up! We are not done. He groaned, forcing himself up. I'm fine, just give me a second. No seconds, she said fiercely. The humans in Ring 4 will die if we stop. Her words struck him like a spark. He staggered to his feet, grabbed the cable, and jammed it into place. With one final push, the readings steadied. The wild hum softened. The red lights faded to yellow, then green. Lyra exhaled, her body trembling. We did it, she whispered. Elias leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. We're alive. But the victory didn't last long. A deep rumble shook the chamber again, and the emergency lights blinked out. Darkness fell, except for the dim glow of Lyra's fur. She turned to him slowly. The main reactor survived, she said. But the backup core is overloaded. Power grid is gone. He rubbed his eyes. Meaning, she said quietly. Aurora 19 has no light, no heat, no life support.
Ow.
They both stood in silence for a moment. Then Elias straightened. Then we fix it. Lyra's ears lowered. You cannot even stand straight, gave a small smile. You told me humans never stop until the work is done. She frowned. I did not mean this. He reached for his tools anyway. Well, too late. Together, they moved through the dark tunnels. Without power, the station felt like a ghost. Only faint emergency lights flickered. The air grew cold fast. Lyra led the way, her glowing fur lighting the path. This way, she said softly. I can feel the energy pulse through the metal. It is still alive, hiding. Elias followed her voice. You can feel energy? Yes. The vibration talks to my kind. Right now, it whispers pain. He shivered. Let's heal it then. They reached the final reactor control, hub massive and silent. Lyra climbed up and placed her paws on the main node. I will reroute flow manually. You must start the ignition. He hesitated. That'll overload your scanner. It does not matter, she said simply. I am smaller. I can handle the feedback better. Elias shook his head. No way. We do it together. Lyra's eyes softened. You humans are impossible. He smiled faintly. You said that before? As she stabilized the current, he activated the ignition switch. The reactor core hummed again. Slowly at first, then louder. Energy crawled back through the veins of the station like sunlight returning after a storm. Power returning, Lyra said weakly. Systems. Waking, Elias turned to her hand, froze. Sparks danced around her body, small electric arcs running through her fur. Her scanner had burned out completely, Lyra, he shouted, rushing to her side. You're getting shocked. She smiled faintly, eyes glowing dimly. It is fine. Just a little too much current. He grabbed her and pulled her away from the node. You saved everyone again, Fox. Her tail twitched weakly. You saved them, human. He looked around. The station lights flickered back to life one by one. Over the comms, Commander Ria's voice came through. Reactor stable. Great work down there. You two did it again? Elias laughed softly, relief flooding his chest. Hear that? We did it. Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes fluttered closed. Panic hit him. Lyra, hey, wake up. He carried her through the corridor, calling for medical help. The crew met him halfway and rushed her to the infirmary. Hours passed in silence. Elias sat outside the medical bay, staring at the floor. Finally, the door opened. The medic smiled. She'll be fine. Just energy exhaustion. Needs rest. Elias sighed in relief. Rest, he muttered. That's a word she doesn't understand. When he entered the room, Lyra was awake, lying under a silver thermal blanket. Her ears twitched as he approached. You look tired, she whispered weakly. He smiled. You nearly fried yourself. Hey. She shrugged slightly. You said humans never stop. I wished to learn. He sat beside her, lowering his voice. You don't have to learn that part. Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then teach me to rest. He laughed quietly. That I can do. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a small glowing crystal, one of her Volari bonding tokens. She placed it on his hand. The crystal pulsed softly like a heartbeat. In my world, she said, we give this to those who share their strength. You carried me when I fell. You gave me your light.